Yes, hello and welcome to the first Air Raid Siren of 2025. We are brought to you by HBF Health Insurance. Make the trade and join HBF, your health dream team. This is, of course, a safe space where Mitch and I are able to talk about something footy related but not trade related. And you can open the bowling, Mitchell.
This has been simmering inside me all summer.
Oh.
And I've just been annoyed enough to bring it up here on the Air Raid.
You don't get fired up that easily. You're very calm.
I had white line fever on the field.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
If anyone who played with
that's
or
not good.
against Mitchell is listening, can you please, in the next week, throw Scotty a just quickly? I'd love to hear some stories because I think you and I share the white line fever kind of thing. And there are some bad stories about me. Please.
So the AFL in the next 2 or 3 years will introduce a 19th team. It means we're going to have to find another 40 or 50 AFL players. Right now, the depth of football in the country is a concern in the state league competitions. And I heard a story over summer of just one example, and there's multiples of these, where players are getting 3, 4, even 5 times as much money to play in local leagues around Victoria, including country footy, Melbourne, than they would to play for a VFL team. We're getting to a scenario where, this is just one example, a player I've heard of is playing Essendon District Footy League and he can earn $900 a game for a match fee, or he can play VFL on a VFL list and earn $300 for a match fee. It means he gets less contact hours playing for his local club because it's not as serious, but you're playing with your mates. It's not as highly professional. Instead, you can go and play VFL on a lesser wage for your match payment. You're going to have more involvement, more professionalism. There is a lessening incentive for players who miss out on the draft from the ages of 19 to 24 to go and play VFL. Instead, it's only increasing to go and play local footy elsewhere. The AFL needs to find a way, if they're serious about growing the game, they talk about putting 10% of all revenue into growing the game and community footy and that sort of thing. They need to go and find a way to increase the VFL standard because there are so many good players playing in local leagues around the country that should be playing VFL that right now just don't have the incentive to do it. And if we're going to be growing the competition in the next 2 or 3 years to have to go and find 40 or 50 more players, this is where we should be finding more players out of the VFL. Now, you get an example like a Jack Henderson who best on ground for Werribee in the VFL last year, plays VFL, does another VFL preseason and gets picked up by Melbourne. There would be a host of other kids in that situation as a 24-year-old who could go and do that. But they, at the age of 21, 22, think, I've had my crack at VFL. I'm sort of on the fringes. Why do I want to continue to commit my time and effort into playing VFL? I can go and play local footy and earn 3 times as much and play with my mates and have a beer after the game. I think we're getting to a point now where we need to seriously look at the funding for VFL and state league competitions to ensure the incentive is there for these guys, not to just run away and play and have a kick with your mates at country and local footy.
Do you think it'll happen, or do you think that this situation will continue to...
I don't see any signs of it moving right now.
It's disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like it. Mitch fired up.
And I send in your, just quicklies on that. I reckon there'll be a lot of people who have stories like that at their local leagues.
Yep. Good one. Local footy siren. So this one has been bubbling away with me for a few years now, and I'm not ready to explode about it, but it's gotten me pretty frustrated, and I'm not going to name names because I think people will be able to work out some examples. But what's been sneaking into football in the last few seasons is players aligning with sponsors, personal sponsors. And I'm not just talking media outlets. I'm talking, external sponsors, even external from the club. And then the only time that we hear from them is aligned from that sponsorship.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think this is directed at me.
No, it's not. No, it's not at all. It's not. I think there needs to be a recognition. And you and I in the media, we're relatively meaningless in the context of things, right? It's all about the players. And it's all about the players and the fans. They're the most important things. Without the players, there's no game. Without the fans, there's no game, right? But if you take away the media money, then the game is completely different to what it looks like now. There's no access. There's no money. It's not on TV. The billions of dollars that Seven are spending doesn't exist.
Look at some sports recently in Australia that have gone behind the paywall full time.
Yeah, well, the A-League's disappeared. Don't start me on the A-League. Don't. It's a dangerous place to take me. It's like a great white shark. My eyes go into the back of my head and I just go weird.
You said you weren't fired up about something. Now,
just breathe. Woo, sir. Woo, sir. If I haven't seen Bad Boys, they'll be knowing what I'm
well, now
talking
that you're
about.
sports affairs editor at The Age, I reckon there's something coming on there. You could write a full piece on this.
Just a word out there to everyone in the AFL, in the community. More than half of your wage comes from the media. If you don't want to do the media, that's fine. Give back the money.
Yeah.
And the media have a part to play in this as well. Let's stop giving sponsors free handouts. If you want to talk to a player or you want to talk to someone attached to a club, then do what you often do and hunt them down. And if they don't want to talk to you, well, at least you've got them on camera being like, no, I don't want to talk to you, or potentially running away from you. And I know you and I have talked about this before on and off air, but this whole bullshit thing that was put in the CBA about every player is going to be made available. It's just, if anything, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
If anything, it's gotten worse. And I can tell you right now, I'm not going to say who they are. I have 5 examples right now of me requesting interviews with players. And by the way, they're not like players who have, some huge front page story to tell. Like, it's not as though I'm trying to get them for a gotcha interview. Mm-hmm. I've put in 5 requests for players who I think have interesting stories to tell. And all 5 of them now are, oh, geez, yeah, not sure if we can accommodate that. So what's the point in having this brand new unfiltered access? I've said this before and I'll say it again. So here's a perfect example for you. In 2 weeks' time, I can walk into the paddock at Albert Park and have basically unfiltered access to Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
And what are these guys on a year? 50 mil?
I think there was a report out in the Times last week that Verstappen took home 124 million.
Okay. Sorry, Max, I've given you unders there.
You've cut his salary in half. He can no longer afford his 4th boat. They finished practice on the Thursday. Well, in fact, they practice on the Friday, but regardless, they come straight to the paddock and they have to stand around and do media. And sometimes they have to do up to 10 different medias and no one complains. And they just stand there and they answer questions and they answer honestly. And yet we have to go through 4 different media managers to speak to a guy that plays in the back pocket. And eventually we get the answer is no, when 60% of all the money comes from the media. Take away media money, take away gambling money, there is no AFL. Doesn't exist.
And you won't use names, but I will. Look at Joe Danaher last year. Grand final, he wins a flag and you don't see him in the rooms. He didn't do one interview apart from 2 minutes with Luke Hodge on the ground in the entire post-game celebrations.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, if he's on $900,000 a year, should part of that be handed back? We were threatened last year, Dusty, how many times did he speak?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, arguing against myself, there's a couple of examples like Joe and like Dusty where they're not talking adds to this whole mystique. But in general terms, the lack of access in our game is pretty embarrassing.
You talk about sponsors. I'll rip the Band-Aid off. Petrarca, I'm sure you would have asked for him for a chat this year.
Yep.
I got him through Red Bull. I'm happy to, I think that's pretty obvious how that all came about.
Yep.
So that's what you're getting at as part of this?
Well, I think, I've had my thoughts on Christian before, but Melbourne fans deserve to hear from him wearing red and blue just because.
Yep.
Not because it's attached to a sponsor. So anyway, that wasn't about Christian.
No, I like this, Sam.
But it's just one to watch. The next time you're seeing your superstar players who you've, forked out your hard-earned to have a membership and have their number on your back and all this stuff, let's just see how often you get to hear from him.
Just while we're talking media, will you be attending any press conferences this year?
Where I was at Captain's Day. That's one.
No, we're talking post-game press conferences on match day.
Well, I don't cover games that often anymore. Are you going to be front and centre Thursday nights in the post-game?
I believe so.
Oh, that's exciting. Are they going to play is Chris Jones going to play the post-game presser live?
Would they? Yeah, if not live, like a minute or two.
I don't want it a minute or two after. I don't want them to turn it around. I want live, Mitch.
Okay, I'll put that request in just for you.
Thank you. Jonesy, if you're listening, I want live Mitch Thursday nights post-game, please. Thank you to our friends at HBF for not only being your health dream team, but also for making this episode possible. See you next week.